These two thieves, I think, are an example of humanity. Jesus made a number of statements, 7 to be exact, from the cross. And his final statement just said, it's simple. It's finished. It's just finished. Have you ever done that? It's finished. You get a project done and it's finished. You're building a house and it's finished. You're working on a project and it's finished. It's like you've worked for years to pay for your house, and that day comes when you make that last mortgage payment, and the mortgage company gives you a paper and it says, paid in full. It's finished. And that's what's happening here. Oswald Chamber wrote, the greatest note and triumph that ever sounded in the ears of a startled universe was the sound on the cross when Jesus said, it is finished. It's the last word in the redemption of man. From the very beginning, if you've gone through Meet the Captain class with me, you notice that we start that lesson out. The very first page, it says, in the beginning, God created. Way back, whenever. Don't get into the theory of how long it was. It's way too long ago. But we know that man lived in the Garden of Eden for a period of time. And we don't know exactly how long that was. Could have been 1 trillion years. But then one day, they decided, and I say they, husband and wife, Adam and Eve, decided that there was some fruit on this tree that would make a good pie. And so they took some fruit from that tree and they took a bite of it. And this is the very tree that God said, I don't want you to touch. I want you to stay clear of that tree. Anything else around here is yours. But when it comes to this particular tree, you leave that fruit for me. But they couldn't let it go. And so after this period of time, they sinned. And that's the verse where Rick referred to, where it says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And the wages of sin are what we earned because of taking that fruit or whatever we do. The wages of that is the fact that we're going to die. But then he says in that verse as well, but I tell you what, there's something more marvelous than anything you can imagine. It's the redemption plan that I have planned for you in the long run. Look way out into the horizon. Don't look right here, but way out into the horizon. I have a plan for you. And when that plan happens, you're going to hear the words saying, it is finished. And the redemption plan has happened. So what I want to do in my moments today is I want to look at the weight of the cross. Not necessarily the cross itself, but I want to look at the weight of the cross. I don't know how heavy this cross is here, but whatever, it's difficult for one person to lift. I'm not talking about weight. I'm talking about weight. Does that make sense? Not to you. To me it does. All right? I'm talking about the sins of the world. All of your sins, all of my sins, all of the person sitting next to you sins, which are a lot more than yours and mine, of course, but sitting next to you, all of their sins, all from all over the world, from the apple tree or the fruit tree to the end of time, all of those sins have been nailed on that cross. All of them have been nailed on that cross. That's the weight that I want to talk about today. So when we look at the implications of Christ's sacrifice on the cross, I believe we have to begin with trusting that the sacrifice here opens up the door for us. And one of the miracles that occurred at the cross was when Jesus is on the cross and he bowed his head and he said, it is finished. Something happened in the temple. Now, we don't talk about it very often, unless maybe on Good Friday, and we will this Good Friday, 1 o'clock, by the way, here at this church. We're having a community service. Come and join us for that if you can. But there was this curtain that kind of kept the general public. I'm being a little weird with that, but it kept the people out of this area where only the high priest and the priest could go. Because that's where the sacrifices were made, and that's where Jesus lived, or God lived. Remember, there was a time that God lived in a house that was made with hands. But he said, there is coming a time when I will no longer live in a place made with hands, but I'm going to live in the hearts and the minds of the people. But that time had not come yet. So God's living there, and the only way you can get access to God would be through the priest. But there was this temple, or this curtain that separated that. But when Jesus died and the darkness came and the earthquake shook, this curtain literally ripped in two. So no longer was it only for one person or a group of people, holy people, but now we, as the general public, all right, we have access to the very throne room of God.